Yesterday, House Speaker Mike Johnson had a press conference to discuss what life is like for Jewish students on campus, particularly Ivy League campuses. And one student that was featured is a University of Penn undergrad named Ekal Jacoby. Listen to what he said about what the situation is at Penn. And remember, the Huntsman family made the big splash by saying they were no longer donating to UPenn because of what's happening, just as we've had huge donors from Harvard say the same. Listen to young Ekal Jacoby.
Nonetheless, I refuse to go back to 1939 when Jews had to hide their religious symbols and hide who they are due to the intimidation and harassment of us. I used to think this was nonsense, fear-mongering, until I was made aware that Penn recommended to students, quote, not wear clothing/accessories related to Judaism.
Right. So that would lead one to believe that there are students on campus at University of Pennsylvania that are failing to abide the code of conduct. And so think about what Jacoby said in the context of this back and forth before a House committee between Congresswoman Elise Stefanik and University of Penn President Liz Magill.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
yes
speech
or
becomes
no?
if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard...
we'll get to Dr. Gay. Liz McGill, so rather than trying to hi-hat her, Elise Stefanik would have been better to say, oh, really, it's contextual. Okay, well, give me a scenario. Give me the context in which someone calling for the genocide of Jews on campus is not violative of the code of conduct. I would have liked to hear that answer.
Well, Jacoby, though, I mean, he was told by classmates and even professors, quote, you're a dirty little J word. You deserve to die, while he was running from one building to the next. That's acceptable? No, that's not.
Well, the other point here, emphasis on code of conduct. Code of conduct on a campus is not the same as First Amendment. So what does the code of conduct say, and how is that example or others, Jacoby saying, I'm being told not, for example, I can't wear a yarmulke without fear of being safe on campus. So how is that environment being perpetrated by apparently some Penn students not violative of the code of conduct? And then she turned to Claudine Gay, who is the president of Harvard. And you had the same sort of back and forth. This particular snippet from their exchange is really illustrative. It was very reminiscent of the testimony Christopher Wray gave over on the Senate side before senators on a range of topics, where he essentially said, we have these processes and safeguards in place to ensure that bad actors are punished, to ensure that the FBI operates within its powers, legitimate powers. And of course, we have no intention to use those processes because we're just sort of caretakers for the politics of the agency, just like these university presidents are just caretakers for the dominant politics on campus.
What action has been taken against students who are harassing and calling for the genocide of Jews on Harvard's campus?
I can assure you we have robust
What
disciplinary
actions have been
processes
taken? I'm not
with
asking.
actions underway.
I'm asking what actions have been taken against
Given-
those students.
Given students' rights to privacy and our obligations under FERPA, I will not say more about any specific cases other than to reiterate that processes are ongoing.
She might as well have said there's an ongoing investigation, like Christopher Wray says, to cover having to answer any questions about what specifically is or is not happening. Oh, by the way, the hypocrisy, too, and the doublespeak. Stefanik pointed out that the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, FIRE, has ranked Harvard last out of 203 schools in the country in terms of its free speech. And there are myriad examples. Harvard sanctioned 4 scholars, 3 of whom had terminated in 2019, revoked conservative student activist Kyle Kashuv, one of the Parkland High School shooting survivors, acceptance over comments he made on social media when he was a 16-year-old, disinvited feminist philosopher Devin Buckley from an English department colloquium on campus over her views on gender and trans, meaning she didn't follow the orthodoxy on campus, terminated law professor Ronald Sullivan for representing Harvey Weinstein, at the height of the Me Too movement, and so many other examples. It's my contention that Claudine Gay could be the FBI director and Christopher Wray could be the president of Harvard. The managerial elite operate the same way. There's no particular law enforcement expertise you need to be the FBI director in this environment. And there's no particular expertise or academic bona fides you need to be the president of Harvard. You just need to manage the political environment consistent with the interests of your fellow travelers, no matter what they say or do. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Helen Raleigh. She's a senior contributor to the Federalist, Federalist.com, author of Backlash, How China's Aggression Has Backfired. Helen Raleigh, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So your reaction to what you heard in those exchanges, what it indicates about the culture on campus. I know the Cultural Revolution on campus, your piece is mainly focused on China, but these are sort of similar dynamics in terms of the environment and culture on campus.
Yes, I agree. I agree with what you just said. I watched some of the hearings yesterday. I was just utterly disappointed and shocked, even though I know our college campuses are intolerant of different ideas. But those presidents, they have weeks to prepare for this testimony, and giving all the new evidence we know about the massacre happened, a terrorist, committed a massacre and rape happened on October 7th, that the presidents have weeks, to prepare for the testimony, and they still come out with such a moral cowardness. It's shocking. And I have to say, my husband graduated from Wharton. So for years, we donated, we contributed to PEN. We stopped our contribution after PEN, basically censored Professor Amy Waxter. But it's just shocking, especially compared the president's testimony to the students' the testimony. Those students' testimony, just like this should not be happening in America.
Well, and you include in your piece on Harvard's campus, a group of pro-Palestinian students, including the editor of the Harvard Law Review, surrounded a Jewish student and shouted, "Shame, shame." That would be another good example to put to Claudine Gay. Now, is that an example? Is that conduct that's consistent with the code of conduct on campus? That's supposed to be anti-bullying and anti-harassment, physical intimidation of Jewish students for being Jewish?
Well, obviously not, but we know the college campuses operate on a double standard, right? They are the ones, those liberals run the college campuses. They are the ones who told us for years that the words can be violent. So they have to censor speeches. They have to disinvite conservative speakers. They have to disinvite detransitioned, transgender activists because they said the words are violence. They want to keep the campus a safe place for other students. But then when actual violence took place, they cannot bring themselves to issue, condemnation, issue statement. They suddenly became quiet, became cowards. And I think yesterday's testimony and their reactions, all these supposedly adults in charge of campus, their reactions since October 7th, which is very telling that I think those adults are worse than the students who are harassing other Jewish students. I think the adults are the root cause of why our college campuses are the most intolerant, are the most illiberal places in America.
And the nexus to Mao's Cultural Revolution, the role that young people played in the Cultural Revolution in terms of perhaps a cautionary tale about what we're seeing on college campuses in the Ivy League and elsewhere in this country.
Unfortunately, I definitely see similarities. So radical ideologies, whether it's communism, fascism, and socialism, they all tend to recruit young people, taking advantage of young people's natural disdain for authority, and radicalize young people, turn them into blunt instruments. I see that happened during China's Cultural Revolution. Young girls who were innocent before the Cultural Revolution and during the Cultural Revolution committed senseless murders, beaten and killed their own teachers. And, one of the witnesses from that event, she said something I think is something we should all remember today in America. She said that Mao started the Cultural Revolution on campus because once you ruin the campus, you ruin students, you are going to destroy traditions, you are destroying values, you are destroying cultures, you are destroying civilization. And that warning, that's what happened in China. And we're seeing this happen in real time here in America. That's why I disagree. Some people say, oh, what's happening on college campuses, it's just kids. They're going to grow out of it. We are seeing from those college professors, those presidents of running universities, they're never going to grow out of it. They're going to turn the entire society into those woke campuses, intolerant places. That's why we must learn from the history. And we all have moral responsibility to prevent our young people being taken advantage of, being turning into blunt instruments for radical ideologies.
Well, then, do you think it's prudent that some large corporations and some big wigs are saying, you know what, if you're against Israel, then we're not going to hire you at our company?
Oh, absolutely. Because those corporations, they are private entities. They have every right to decide who they want to hire. And especially if somebody from law school, you just give the example I mentioned in my article about the law school review editor. I mean, he's going to be a lawyer and he's out there leading harassment against another student for no reason other than the student's religious beliefs or ethnicity. Can we trust that he's going to be a fair, good lawyer? No, he cannot be. So, yes, I think that's absolutely, necessary.
Well, and it's interesting, too. You say, they take advantage, the Cultural Revolution, take advantage of young people's distrust of authority to instigate revolt. But in this case, the authorities are conspiring. There's nothing to revolt against. They're conspiring to behave like thugs against an insular minority.
Well, there are elements of that, but I also think they are cowards. Because you're going back to my Cultural Revolution example, because when that one teacher was beaten by students, none of the adults stepped forward because they were all worried. They were driven by fear that if they step forward to say something, they're going to become the next target. So I think many of those present adults running the campus, they unleashed the woke mob, and now they lost control, and they became fearful. Because they did not want to go say the wrong things and then have those student mob, show up at their offices, prevent them to run their daily lives. So they are also morally cowards. That's why I fully support that Bill Ackman, the venture capitalist. I fully support his call that we need to have the board fire the president, hold them accountable. First, we need to hold the adults accountable. Then we need to hold those field educators, students accountable. We must reintroduce accountability back into college campuses. If we just let this continue to fester, again, they never grow out of it. They're going to turn the rest of society into a giant college campus.
Well, right, and I mean the troubling thing, of course, is we had a lot of advance warning that this was the culture on campuses. I mean, you don't have to go back very far. This was, I mean, just a couple of examples years ago now. University of Cal Berkeley students essentially setting the campus on fire in protesting Ben Shapiro speaking there. Middlebury College, Charles Murray walking with administrator on campus, the social scientist Charles Murray, and students accosting both of them and physically injuring the Middlebury administrator. And so that was over just, being a conservative. And so now you see this happening with Jews being targeted on college campuses, and people are shocked at what's been going on. It's been going on for a long time. And now we are trying to assess, some people are trying to assess, how deep the roots are, because it's going to take a significant effort, not just punishing a few students one-off for not hiring the guy from Harvard Law Review. It's going to take a real big lift to undo all that has been allowed to take hold on the campus.
Oh, I agree. Like people like you and I work in the media, we've been like shouting into the air for the intolerance, the speech censorship, college campuses, what's going on for years now. But we were told that they're going to grow out of it. Obviously now, this tragic event that took place in Israel is a revealing. Just like the COVID pandemic was a revealing event, now this massacre happened in Israel is also revealing. It helped many people on the left finally open their eyes to see how bad this woke ideology is. I mean, all the presidents, they sound like they were just coached by the same DEI consultant. That's why they give those very canned answers over and over again. They lack moral clarity because they never learned that from the DEI consultant. And this whole idea that, a crime is not a crime, it really all depends on who's the perpetrator, who's the victim. Their skin color matters. Depends on who's the victim, the skin color of the victim, then we can decide that's the context they're seeking for. It's all very disgusting. Like, I'm so disgusted by what's going on in America today. And, I did not come to America to relive in the illiberal environment I left behind, in China. That's why I am so outspoken. I'm writing articles. I almost get tired of keep saying, this looks like cultural revolution. This looks like what's happening in China. Wake up. We need to stop this. So I hope out of this tragedy, what happened with Israel and all the reactions that we see today, I hope more people on the left will wake up. This is the speech, the protection, the equal rights in front of law. These are not a left and right issue. This is a good versus evil, liberal ideology versus illiberal ideology. It should be very clear. We should all have this moral clarity. So I hope this event will wake up more people, more Americans, to put a stop on this terrible trend.
Helen Raleigh, senior contributor to the Federalist, Federalist.com, author of Backlash, How China's Aggression Has Backfired. Helen Raleigh, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, and she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Support our police and hire the police to personally protect you. You've watched the news. Rising crime has been affecting our everyday lives in Illinois more and more these days. Blue Star Security can protect you, your business, or your place of worship. Blue Star Security is the only security company in Chicago with over 900 off-duty police officers, all W-2 employees.
I'm Jeffrey Salvetti, Vice President of Blue Star Security and a 15-year law enforcement veteran. The Blue Star team is made up of over 900 state-certified active and retired law enforcement